Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. Welcome to the S1 Tom Chat. Yes, it is a play on words on that famous American airplane. And this is the inaugural episode. And I am so pleased to have on the show Mr. Brian Honan. Brian, how are
I'm
you?
very good, Tom, and thanks for having me on the inaugural show. We can set the standard that everybody has to achieve from here. From here,
Exactly, exactly. The only way is up, right?
that is absolutely true. Yes.
So Brian is well known in the information security industry. Runs his own company, BH Consulting, based out of Dublin, Ireland. He has also established or co-established the Irish CERT, as well as runs Iriscon, which is the annual conference that raised funds for the CERT. He was also an assistant. An assistant, is that right? No, you weren't an
An
assistant. You were
advisor.
an advisor.
Yeah.
Advisor, thank you. An advisor to Europol.
Mhm.
And they loved him so much, they asked him back. So you were there for two stints, I believe it was. And generally, just an all-round good egg mentor and, supporter of people all round, myself included. So, Brian, how do you do it all?
Just do it. I don't know. Is the honest answer, Tom? Like my mother always had a saying: if you want to get something done, give it to somebody who's busy, because they'll always find some way to do it. So
Yeah.
look, I think
Yeah.
I count myself being very lucky to work in an industry I enjoy, in a job I enjoy, and many things I do is my way of giving back.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's important, isn't it? Because I think we hear, just to jump straight into it, we hear an awful lot and a lot of CISOs and industry professionals complaining about the skills gap
Yeah.
and how there aren't enough people in the industry and we could do so much more, etc. And frankly, nobody or very few of them are doing anything about it. Very few of them are mentoring people, are encouraging people from diverse backgrounds,
Yeah.
socioeconomic as well as ethnic, etc. Encouraging people to speak up at conferences and get their voices heard. And yet, that's something that exactly that you do. I know you're, an early supporter of B sides this
Mhm.
side of the pond. That's the B sides conferences. I know, with Iriscon, you get a very wide range of people on there from the very experienced speakers all the way down to people who've never spoken
Yeah.
before. And I also know that you're extremely generous with your time as well. But that's what helps attract people and keep people in the industry, right?
It does, and I suppose I'm of a generation that got involved in cybersecurity when it wasn't an industry. I've been involved in IT for over 30 years. And back then, security wasn't really something that people thought about from an IT point of view. IT were these cool machines just to keep working. And to be quite frank, I never wanted, or when I was young and younger, about to leave school, etc., I never thought about a career in computers. I wanted to be a policeman. I wanted to join the Irish police force, and because I've always had this thing that we're we're here to make the world a better place, and if you can leave the world behind you after you've done your X number of years here, and you've contributed in some small way to make it a better place, well, then you've done a job. And when I was younger, I thought you know that was the career for me to get there, but never actually got into to join the police. But security, from a technical point of view, and how it did attract me in, and then I started getting involved from it to sort of say, like, my involvement in security back in the day wasn't to break things to find out how to get into them. It was to break things to see how do we fix it to make it safer and better and more secure. And that started way back in the late 80s, early 90s when first got involved in my first IT job. And
Mm.
over my career, I've kind of always had that interest and focus. And then when I set my own business up, I said to myself, this is my opportunity to spend my time the way I want to spend my time. And if we can encourage more people into the industry, this is the way we're going to make the world a safer place. Uh, and sometimes I do lament maybe the current cybersecurity industry in that it has become an industry. So it has become a
Yeah.
career. In order to get into cybersecurity, you have to have a degree, you have to have this, you have to have that. And it becomes uh, it becomes a job. It becomes a way to make
Yeah.
money. And I'm not saying it. Trust me, I don't have any objection to making money, but if that is your motivation, well then,
It's the
yes,
wrong one.
you can have a successful career in this business, but are you going to leave a mark behind you? Are you going to leave
Yeah.
uh, the world a better place? And I think by encouraging others to join the industry and expanding it out to being uh, all encompassing and as welcome as we can, and we still have a lot of challenges there, that we can address the skills gap, because my opinion is we don't need somebody with a computer degree it doesn't
No.
mean that they're going to be a good security person. There's a lot more involved in good security people than what qualifications they hold.
Absolutely, and we both know people who had zero qualifications on that front and have made excellent infosec people.
Yeah,
Lee Monson, for instance, I
absolutely.
know he worked with you for a while. He
Yeah,
worked with me for a while. And then when he got all the skills that he needed, he left us both and went somewhere else.
which is what we hope.
But
This is what
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, his tea was terrible. Let's face it.
and you never
But
made me tea, Tom.
did he not?
No, what's up with words when one does?
You just didn't train them right. What can I
No,
say?
but actually, Lee is a perfect example. So Lee was
Yes, he
somebody
is. Yeah,
working. Those of you who don't know Lee, Lee Monson is a great guy. He is better known on Twitter as Security FAQ, and he had his own blog back in the day. And Lee had this knack for changing and explaining complicated technical cybersecurity issues into plain language that ordinary people could understand. And when I
yeah,
first met Lee, I actually thought he worked in cybersecurity.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought he
Absolutely.
had a career. And
When you
then,
saw that blog,
yeah.
yeah,
And then he announced on his blog that he was giving it up because he wasn't making enough money from the blog to pay for the hosting of the blog. And he had a full time job in retail that he needed to look after. And I'm going, what do you mean you don't
and
work in
two kids.
security? And two kids, So, like,
Yeah,
Lee is actually one of my heroes for how he has looked at getting into the industry. And I like to think, I just gave him a leg up in that I said, look, Lee, I will pay you to be my work with me on our blog and manage our blog so that you can keep security FAQ going and you're getting some good money out of that. And thankfully then,
yeah,
Tom, you came along and took him on, and Lee has moved on to great things. But Lee is a great example of, he tried the traditional route. He was going for job interviews, and because he didn't have the qualifications that the HR people were
5 years
looking for,
experience.
the years
Yeah,
experience, that he was being turned down. But he actually is one of the best people we know out there, from awareness raising and getting the message across to people. It's this is why we do have like, Lee is actually a good example of why we have a skills gap. If
yes,
we're looking for people with X amount of certifications, X number of years, well, of course, there's going to be a skills gap because there's not that many people out there. But if you open up your recruitment, take off the blinkers and broaden your vision to having a look at other aspects and other areas, like people in sales and marketing would be fantastic in cybersecurity. People, if you think
yeah,
of a salesperson, for them to get through all those people to get to make a sale to somebody, they have to do a whole lot of social engineering to get through those gatekeepers. Same with marketeers. They have to get messages across to promote their brands. Brilliant for security awareness. Take people from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, socio-economic backgrounds. They bring so much diversity and richness to us that we can bring them in. But if we have this narrow focus of certifications, degrees, X amount of years, well, yes, we're going to be all fighting over a limited pool. But there's so many people out there that we need to open our eyes to and welcome into the industry and support them and encourage them to get involved. Because to me, one of the biggest things you need for cybersecurity uh, and a long-term career is passion for the topic. Uh,
Yeah, passion,
yeah,
absolutely. Passion and values. You
yeah,
can teach technology, you can
absolutely.
teach the specific skills. It's that passion, values, culture, etc. The thing that really pissed me off actually was when he was working for me. I was chatting to him. Was he said the number of people, number of CISOs or security folks who said, "Yeah, great, give me a CV, I'll get you on board, etc." And it was like, oh well, he didn't have enough experience.
Yeah.
You can't do it, and that's coming from the security people who knew who he was, knew where he came from, and then were almost cowed by HR, for want of a better term, because not qualified. And I think that frustrated me because if not you, Mister CISO, then who? If you're not going to move that needle a little bit,
Okay, well,
who
Tom,
is?
I will tell you something right here, right now. If I applied for the majority of cybersecurity jobs out there,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would not. I would not qualify.
I
I
know, right?
don't have a.
Me too.
I don't have any degrees relating to computers.
Yeah.
So straight away, the HR person is going to look at my CV and go, no, doesn't qualify. You know.
Yeah, I've got a third class degree. It's, I virtually, I could have randomly answered questions and probably done better in my degree course. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And if you didn't get that first job in security, whatever
Yeah.
whatever, because of your qualifications, everybody would have been, the whole industry would have been that much poorer as a result.
Well, I only got into. I'm from the lucky generation in that we got involved in IT because we were interested in it, and if you showed an
It was the
aptitude.
coolest toy to have.
Yeah, if you showed an aptitude regarding computers, you're pretty much given a job. Oh, you go and look after that stuff. We're doing the important things. We're over in accounts or underwriting or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right. Yeah.
We're doing the real business. You go take her off with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the what did it say? The geek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah, I
I
think
think was
that's
what
coming
it
around.
came around as,
Yeah.
right? So what about your work with Europol, for instance? I
Yep.
mean, do you get invited to do that? Do you enter a raffle? I mean, what's the what's
Yeah,
what's that all about? And if
these black helicopters came down and whisked me away. No, it was.
Mr. Honan, you have to come with us right now.
Yeah. No, Europol advertised that they were looking for people to join an advisory board, and I applied, and thankfully they selected me based on my experience and how I answered the questions they asked, and the role was to take part in their special advisory group to give them insights into what industry is seeing from a cybercrime perspective and what challenges we're seeing and just liaising with Europol and through Europol then with the various police forces to figure out how can we all work better together to tackle cybercrime and criminals because at the end of the day, cybersecurity gives you that unique job role in that your job is to secure assets belonging to an organization, whether that's private sector or public sector, against people who are out there to cause harm. One thing that frustrates me is that we view cyber criminals as cuddly geeks, sure, they're only a bunch of misguided children or misguided kids who know about hacking. These are
They're off
criminals.
having a crack. Yeah.
These are criminals. These are people who will hurt you and don't care about it. And we threw our arms up in horror during the past 12 months when we saw ransomware attacks against hospitals and medical research facilities for against COVID and against schools and etc. Going, oh my God, how could people do that? It's because they're criminals. They don't care.
Because there's money
There's
involved.
money
Yeah, that's
involved,
right.
and they don't care how they get money. These are
That's
people.
right.
I've a very in one of the talks I give when I talk about cyber criminals. I actually have a picture of Romanian police arresting cyber criminals, and the picture has a bunch of people with balaclavas and guns, and then guys in shorts and t-shirts. And I say the people wearing the balaclavas are the police. The people, so they're not the bad guys. The bad guys are the people in the t-shirts who look normal, but you don't
Yeah.
wear balaclavas, carry guns, and wear flak jackets to arrest somebody who you think is harmless.
Yeah, arrest some scally who's just nicked a
Exactly.
car for
Yeah,
an evening or whatever.
these
Yeah,
are hardened criminals, and I think we need to get that message across that so that people can understand that the threat we're dealing with is real, and it's not just computers attacking computers or misguided teenagers having
or the
having kicks and giggles.
yeah, or the victimless crime concept. Because I
Yes.
think a lot of people will see crimes in those sorts of crimes in isolation. Oh, this just happened. This just happened. What they don't get is one, how they're interconnected very very often anyway, but also the other crimes that they help fund as a result of that. So the trafficking and the
Yeah.
the drugs distribution and the terrorism and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
And there is no
Uh,
such thing as a victimless crime. Like if I
yeah,
was to pick your pocket and take the £5 note that you've treasured so long in it. No, but seriously,
when did you last see my pay packet? Blimey.
no, but seriously, if somebody is mugged or robbed of 100 quid or a
Yeah,
£1,000 or however much it is in the physical world, robbing of the same amount in through their credit card or the bank account is still the same impact. It's still a victim at the end of the day, and that's the
mm,
individual victims. You made a very good point there about it funds other crime, but other crime also funds cybercrime because criminals will, one of the reasons criminals want to phish your bank details or to lure people into money mule scams is they want to launder money they've raised in other crime, be that drugs or anything else, and using your bank account to put their ill-gotten gains through is one way for them to launder their money. So we do need to think cybercrime it's a real issue, and in many cases, I argue we should just drop the word cyber. It's crime,
yeah, yeah,
and we
absolutely,
don't have cyber
absolutely.
criminals; we've got criminals.
I mean, look at the ransomware in that German hospital recently, where
Yeah.
the German police are actually treating the outcome of that, which was a patient dying, as murder. Right? Is it?
No,
I think I'm right.
uh,
Or is it manslaughter,
no,
or the equivalent of manslaughter?
that was the original headlines, Tom. But since then, you may want to cut this part.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, anyway,
But there were the initial headlines that the hospital had been hit by ransomware, so the patient died as a result of having to be redirected to another hospital in the ambulance. But subsequent examination has highlighted that most likely the person would have died regardless of whether the hospital is available or not. But look, cybercrime is going to have real world, and it does have real world consequences. It's just that we tend to ignore there's the financial impact it has on companies. I've dealt with companies that have been hacked or have been ransomed, and the impact it has on their business, both from a financial point of view, but from a stress and everything else, is quite significant. And that if you take all that it has on our economies, it's even bigger then. And then, as you highlighted, Tom, where we have all this money coming from crime, into criminal gangs, that's funding them to be more capable either in conducting more attacks online or funding other criminal activities, be that
in the physical world.
physical world, etc. And the two
Yeah,
are blending. We are seeing criminals using cyber attacks to cover real world attacks.
yeah.
You've seen, there's been attacks against port authorities and the systems they use for shipping to smuggle containers full of people for human trafficking. So
Yeah. Yeah,
This is serious business.
absolutely. And as you say, just criminals. Just
Yeah,
simplify the whole thing, right? And
yeah,
make it a lot clearer, and take away the fluffiness from it. Take away
exactly.
that impression that it is, as you say, just a bunch of teenagers on a computer.
Yeah.
So I think I know. I think I probably know the answer to this. You work with Europol, and you're seeing things from, quite literally the criminal side
Mm.
of the world, as it were, rather than just the corporate side. Did that very much influence how you dealt with your own clients at BH Consulting? Did that change and evolve your own approach?
Not necessarily, no. It would have an influence, but over the years, from establishing Irish CERT, which was the first computer emergency response team here in Ireland, and through that, getting involved in the CERT community, you get involved in lots of trusted networks where you do get insight into what's happening down in the deep dark bowels of the internet, and there's lots of good information sharing going on. There's lots of very good people around the world giving up a lot of their free time to 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 to, to fight against these criminal gangs. So I would have had a lot of that knowledge as well. But working with Europol does give you an insight into how police forces work. And what it really highlighted to me was why it's so important for us to share information about when there's been a cyber attack or been a breach. If we don't report crime, then the police don't have a report of that crime on their books. And that goes up to politicians to give funding to police forces. They're going to go, well, what cybercrime have you had? Oh, there's no cybercrime because there's been no reported cybercrime. And that's a self-fulfilling problem then, because there's no perceived at political level or at senior management within police forces that cybercrime is a problem. Then resources go elsewhere where the problem is seen to be there. So one reason we need to report cybercrime is to support our local police in getting them the information they need. But more importantly, and this is where Europol play a critical role, people often say, why should I bother reporting this crime? Why should I? I got hit by ransomware. Why should I? I've dealt with it. I've restored my backups or whatever. Why should I report to the police? They're probably not going to get the guys behind this anyway. So what's the point? The point is that Europol acts as a very much like an intelligence sorting facility or an agency for all the police forces. So you report your your breach to your local police. Details of that are sent up to Europol. Now, this is obviously if you're within the EU, because Europol is an EU agency, but that information then is shared with local police forces all the way up to Europol, who then have this big picture puzzle, if you like, of at a higher level. And the bits of information they get from your breach could be that one, that could be the IP address or the Bitcoin wallet or the email address
Just
or
that tiny amount of
tiny thing
information that they
that
need.
unlocks another part of the puzzle that Europol
Yeah.
can then put everything together and go, now we can put an operation together with police forces around the world to target this criminal gang because we have more information and intel that we can do it. So reporting cybercrime to me is one of the biggest things we can do to help fight against crime, rather than just sort of saying, well, that happened. No point reporting
Yeah.
to the police because they're never going to get the person behind this. They may not, and they probably won't. But the information you give, as A, supports the argument to get better funding for your police force, but secondly, it gives intel back to other police forces that they can put together for a bigger picture to tackle the people behind this.
Because I recognize where that behaviour comes from, though, because I've reported things to the UK's action fraud
Yeah,
and all that sort of stuff, and nothing, complete radio silence. You
yeah,
might as well be shouting at the moon. But as you say, it's going somewhere.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
it's making that counter go up by one step, somewhere that will hopefully help build a case for money or a case towards a
yeah,
prosecution somewhere else. So we shouldn't see that lack of response as necessarily a lack of interest or
Absolutely.
ability.
And I was just going to make that point, Tom. Thank you for highlighting, because what law enforcement have to be very careful about as well is that they don't undermine any operations they're working on themselves. So
Yes,
if they're
yeah,
coming back giving you update on your particular issue, and you then go down and to your local security group meeting or meet the lads in the pub, you go, oh yeah, I reported cybercrime, and look, they've identified this person in such a place, and they're thinking of launching an operation. Well, then suddenly the word gets out, and the whole thing,
it's right.
you
Or
know,
you blog about it.
yeah. And so the police can't, in very many cases are very restricted what information they can share back. But I will say you see police forces now being a lot more proactive in what they're trying to do, even from an awareness raising point of view. Like I see the An Garda Síochána here in Ireland, I see they're doing great work on social media in trying to push out a lot of good material on alerting people to scams or fraud that's happening, or how to protect themselves online. Europol themselves on their website have loads of great information uh, on awareness training and awareness raising in different languages as well. So, and it's free, and many police forces, be that in the UK or other parts of, and other police forces within the EU, likewise are doing a lot more proactive stuff there, and
Yeah,
they're celebrating their stuff now as well. If you keep an eye on the Europol Twitter account, you see them regularly posting this operation. We managed to shut down this criminal gang, and that shows you progress has been made.
yeah, very important, very important. So, I want to give you a chance to talk briefly about Iriscon
I'm
itself.
Irish. We don't talk briefly, Tom.
Well, given we're 27 minutes in, and I think I've said about 4 words, but
And with you, that's an achievement.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I want to talk about Iriscon because
Yeah.
what many people don't know is that most certs are, you know, are staffed by volunteers. Are paid for through donations and things like that. They're not always nationally supported.
Yeah, I suppose Irish CERT, we are unique in that we are self-supported and we're volunteers. So
Mm,
we have no funding from anybody to keep it going. So we are not for profit voluntary organisation. So we are rather unique. Most certs are funded in some way by their government or otherwise. Uh, so we have to, we have bills to pay, even
yeah,
hosting a website or anything else. And as a not for profit organisation, we have to pay for our accounts to be audited, even though we mightn't have a whole lot of money. We still have to
yeah,
pay
it's
money to do that. So we need
yeah,
money to come in and cover cover those. So uh, what we try and do is once a year. Unfortunately, last year we had to cancel because of COVID. But we do run our Iriscon cybercrime conference, and lots of people, such as yourself, have been very generous in their time in coming over and speaking at the conference. And the conference, the whole purpose of the conference is to make people more aware of what's happening and what issues are happening from a cybercrime point of view. So we've had speakers from various different agencies around Enise has spoken. We've had people from U.S. law enforcement. We've had speakers from Europol in the past, from An Garda Síochána. We even had the last conference we had in 2019. We had Mick Moran, who's ex Interpol, talking about how we as IT system administrators can help tackle the purge of child sexual abuse material that's online as well. And we've lots of very good people like that who come along, and it's to raise awareness of what's out there. It's also a way for people to network with each other. We're a neutral zone, so we do look for sponsorship. So anybody out there who's looking to sponsor a conference this year, which probably will be one of the very few in-person conferences in
that's
2021.
right.
Just to get
That's
sorry
right.
to drop in my ad there, Tom, but please do,
We've all got a book to sell.
yeah, please do look me up. But it's all the speakers are neutral. Even the sponsors, we say, This is not a sales and marketing pitch.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
educational. So it creates a good atmosphere for people to talk to each other. In parallel, we actually run a capture the flag competition, and somebody once joked about it. It's an opportunity for the suits and ties to meet the t-shirts.
Yes.
And it's actually very good because the team that work with us on putting up the capture the flag, who come from IBM, and big thank you to IBM for supporting us over the years with this, is that they set up the system to be like a corporate environment. So you have CISOs and IT security people coming in for the conference facilities, and then they're going into a room where they can see people actually attack the latest vulnerabilities to demonstrate, look, if you're not patching your vulnerabilities or managing your vulnerabilities in such a way, this is
what's going to happen.
This is what's going to happen. So look, I like to think it's a good open conference that people can, have a good opportunity to network and socialize with as well.
I mean, two things for me stand out for it. One is it's a single track conference, but virtually every single talk, the room is completely packed, and
it's a small room.
Standing room only. You took all the chairs out, but no, but it's completely packed, and the hallway track, which is often, I mean, if you go to any conference, the hallway track, outside the individual rooms, etc., is normally very, very popular. Here, it's not. I mean, it's the talks. People come for the talks, and one of the reasons for that is the caliber of speakers that you get is extremely high across the board. And I'm believe it or not, I'm not about to launch into a joke because I've spoken there 3 times already. But you look around and you get people. Extremely well-known speakers from very high-profile companies who come and basically donate their time to do a talk that normally, people would charge thousands and thousands for. And I think, if I may, that's very much down to your own ethos of, networking with people and leading by example from that, supporting and mentoring and actually contributing to the community. And I would recommend anybody here who's listening, check out the show notes for the website. See if you can attend. It's normally November time, isn't it? So
it's November the 18th this year. So it's November the 18th, Thursday, November the 18th. And it's for the really, really knockdown deal of €50 attendees. So it's good value for money.
So yes, folks, please do attend Iriscon if you can. €50. I mean, come on, that's nothing. You could find that down the back of the sofa, really. Brian, we're going to draw to a close now. Thank you so much for your time and contributions. We'll make sure that all of the links that you mentioned are in the show notes, and people can take a look around. Obviously, register for Iriscon when it comes up, and we can all see each other like a big, happy podcast inaugural episode family at Iriscon at some point. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this inaugural episode of the S1 Tom Chat, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Coming up on the next episode of the S1 Tom Chat, Jim Shields unwittingly shares his personal information.
Wow, giving away my age now. That company was 28 years old in January.
And Tom gets in touch with his inner creative lovey.
Is this a good time to plug the book?